Hey everybody, David Clayton for North Carolina District 5. If you're tuning in, I'll give you a second and see if we can get some people in here. I see one person so far on Instagram, 9 people on Instagram. Thank you for being here. TikTok, you're up there. I've got my campaign manager behind the camera there, so she's going to be reading any comments, any questions you have. Please feel free, and I've got Instagram on this front one here, so we'll get started in just a second here. We'll just wait for some late arrivers to show up and see if we can get as many people in here as possible. Can you guys hear me all right? Okay over there in Instagram? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me okay with this microphone I'm using for Instagram here. Any thumbs up? Can you hear me? Hey, you're awesome. Thank you. Hello, and peace, Donald. I agree. I see a yes. Yes, sir. Yes. So you can hear me. Okay. A lot of hearts on TikTok. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining me. Give me a second while I down some energy drink. We're going to be here for an hour. This is a digital town hall, of course, and this is the first. I did a joint event with Ashley Bell in District 10 alongside Michael Fanone. I saw Ashley is visiting the chat. I appreciate you being here, Ashley. Yeah, that was the first co-event, and this is the first singular event. Kathy, my campaign manager, is going to be writing down questions and handing them to me, asking me to answer any questions you've got. So, hey, Ashley, how are you? If you do have any questions, please feel free to just leave it in the chat here on Instagram or on TikTok there, and I will give you the answer. My name is David Clayton. I'm running for the United States House of Representatives for North Carolina District 5, challenging 81-year-old Virginia Foxx. I'm running as an independent, and I want to speak about that to all the registered Democrats in here because I have been getting a lot of comments that say, why are you not running as a Dem? For one reason, if you've been to my website, Clayton4nc.com, you will see that the core of my message is we need to get back to the red, white, and blue. We need to focus more so on policy and people over party. But for another reason is what Texas is currently experiencing with them trying to dominate or trying to create out of thin air 5 additional congressional seats through gerrymandering. And gerrymandering is something that our nation deals with. Unfortunately, it's a reality of the situation. And in a district like mine, District 5, someone who has been in office for 10 terms, that's 20 plus years, Virginia Foxx, who has been contested at every single one of her elections by a Democrat challenger and has defeated every single Democrat candidate because of gerrymandering. Because in a district like mine, there are simply not enough registered Democrats in order to win. I could literally win over every single registered Democrat, and it still wouldn't be enough to win. You need Republican votes. You need a message that is putting forth policy for all Americans, regardless how you're registered to vote. And that's something, again, focusing more on policy and people over party that our country has, unfortunately, kind of slipped away from. You know, I understand the dangers of what we're currently seeing today and this MAGA GOP that is allegiant unconstitutionally to Donald Trump and his methods. But if all we ever do is put up representatives that say, vote for me because I'm not the other guy, without actually having candidates that put up solutions, we're going to keep on this vicious cycle of continuing where we are today. And that's something that I aim to change. We definitely need candidates, representatives that are the definition of the word representative, and we've seen it on both sides of the aisle, whether you're registered Republican, where you don't feel like your Republican incumbent is listening to you, or you're a registered Democrat and you don't feel like your incumbent Democrat is listening to you. The people's voice is being muffled by donors of the rich donors. And that's something that we really need to get back to. Splitting the party be worse? No, as I just said, there is no vote split to be had by running as an independent. The only possible vote split that could happen is by taking away votes, Republican votes, from Virginia Foxx. Chuck Hubbard is running as a Democrat in my district. He ran against Virginia Foxx in 2024. I voted for him. He's a good man. He's a retired newspaper man. And I think the country is becoming more and more hungry for a younger generation. I'm Generation X, to take up the reins and get away from the old guard or those that don't really need a job, like retirees or like people that have only garnered generational wealth instead of helping the constituents, like Virginia Foxx. But I knew Chuck Hubbard was going to lose in 2024, and he did. He lost by 20 plus points. Nearly 80,000 votes. You cannot run as a Dem and make up those margins. I wish Chuck Hubbard all the best of luck in this run, and I've been getting pressured by the Democrat Party to either drop out or to run as a Republican, which I will never run as a Republican. And that's really disheartening that we're seeing those kind of things happen, that kind of intimidation tactics. Especially me being a lifelong Dem myself, now an independent. My goal is to caucus with policy and what is best for the people, not necessarily a party. So there is no vote split to be had. I'm sorry. AIPAC. I have taken no AIPAC. We'll get to that in a second. And I won't take any AIPAC. If you could just hold it up right here when you've got a question, I appreciate it. Yeah, we'll get to AIPAC in a second, and foreign funded organizations. We'll get to that in a second. But back to the subject of the Democrat Party and splitting a vote as running as an independent. There is no vote split to happen as running as an independent because there simply are not enough registered Democrat voters in this district to split a vote, to change the outcome of the election. You need Republican votes in order to win. You need to put forth policies that will help both Republicans and Democrats in order to win. Yeah, and that's really that. I understand this, well, if you're not a Dem, then you're against us. I'm sorry, but that's an antiquated mindset. I know the history of historically independents don't win. I think we're getting more and more beyond that because people are sick and tired of this vicious cycle of ending up where we are today. So again, I think the people are really hungry for a candidate that puts people and policy over party. So that's my stance on that. Getting on to the AIPAC question. I've said many times publicly that I will not accept any AIPAC contributions. I don't believe that our politicians and candidates, not just the incumbents, but any candidates, should be able to accept any foreign-funded organization contributions. And AIPAC is foreign-funded by Israel. The history of AIPAC is that it used to be American-Israeli Political Action Committee. It used to be only for lobbyists or lobbying for American Israelis, for programs, for grants, for funding, things of this nature. But about, I want to say 10 years ago, they switched it up to where they started donating directly to politicians, to political campaigns, as opposed to just lobbying and donating towards, trying to get legislation passed or government grants or things of that nature. So they really need to be taken out of our political system. At least, I don't know if we're ever going to be able to stop lobbyist groups, but lobbyist groups should only be able to lobby for organizations and things like that, because not all lobbyists are bad. There's women's rights lobbyist groups. There's marginalized community lobbyist groups, civil rights lobbyist groups. So not every lobby group is for like big oil or things of this nature, things that are just for their own self-centric means. But the problem that we're seeing today with things like AIPAC is they're literally buying politicians at this point on both sides of the aisle. It's definitely more heavy-handed on the Republican side of things, but there's just as many Democrats that are bought and paid for. Look at Cory Booker, prime example. A lot of people are really upset with Cory Booker right now. But yeah, I will not accept any foreign-funded organizations' contributions at all, both as a candidate and as an incumbent. I don't think it's ethical. It's definitely not, the quote-unquote MAGA talking point of America first when you're taking money from foreign-funded organizations. But yeah, it's something that our political system really needs to be reformed on. I'm a big proponent of campaign finance reform as well as incumbent contribution reform. Matter of fact, if you go to my website, Clayton4nc.com, you'll see, if you scroll to the About Me page and you scroll down, you'll see a link to an article on Good Unite Us. I'm sure if you're not familiar with Good Unite Us, they essentially list out, it's kind of an aggregate system of listing out what companies are spending where as far as politicians and the political landscape. There's a few other aggregates as well. Like, what's the other one that's, I can't remember the name of it, something, Open Secrets is another one. I was the very first candidate ever in Good Unites Us history to be awarded what they call the golden microphone, taking a pledge to get money out of politics. And I'm sorry, TikTok up there, if I'm looking down, I'm looking at Instagram directly, and my tripod won't go lower than that. So, I'm not backed by major corporations, foreign-funded organizations. I'm just doing everything out of my own pocket and your individual contributions. And so far to date, I think we've had 371 individual contributions, averaging around, it was $24 a few days ago. Now I think it's jumped up to about $35, $34, $40 now, individual contributions. So I'm eternally thankful for that, because I am going up against two massive money machines on both the left and the right. Did I do that backwards because of the camera flip? But you know what I'm saying. But yeah, it really is a campaign of the people, by the people, and for the people. And I think people are really tired, especially with everything we're seeing with this Trump regime of civil liberties being removed, constitutional rights being treaded on, while many of his supporters are still flying "Don't Tread on Me" flags. And people are really kind of sick and tired of how things are, and the fact that it's even been allowed to get to this point. It never should have been allowed to get to this point. And I think a lot of that has to do with both sides of the aisle kind of playing off of each other, in part because they know if someone like the Trump regime is doing the worst of the worst, then Democrats are going to crowdfund like crazy off of it. You get people like Cory Booker doing record-breaking filibusters, but filibustering nothing. He was literally just up at a podium breaking a record, not preventing any bill or anything. He was just speaking crowdfunding. So I think the people want to see candidates on both sides of the aisle, or in the middle of the aisle, like myself, that is actually posing solutions to stop this back and forth cycle that is just stressing us all out and making people like me have to live off of Rockstar. Anyway, yeah. Let's see what questions we've got in the chat. Sorry, Instagram, if I've missed some of your questions. There's a question tab here. No questions yet. So apparently there's a question tab on Instagram. So go ahead and put your questions in there and submit them. This is actually the very first time I've ever gone live on Instagram and TikTok. I know you hate hearing that word, Instagram. TikTok the app, not TikTok the community. Did we get shut down?
No.
Okay. So anyway, yeah, I'm a rock star. I'm not a rock star though. That's the thing. I'm just a regular, everyday person, but I appreciate the compliment. I've got one. Well, I can't say one goal, but I've got my core of the work I want to get done in Congress is to call out the legalized corruption made possible by Citizens United. It's not even illegal corruption anymore where they have to hide it. It's all legal. They don't even have to hide it because of this corrupt Supreme Court and because of these unethical and corrupt organizations and businesses that have been told, hey, cut these politicians a blank check and they'll do whatever you want them to. That's not how it's supposed to be. So I want to call them all out. I want to call out everyone that is on the take, regardless of party, and who is buying them. What specific CEOs, what specific business owners, what specific foreign-funded organizations. I want to shine a spotlight on all of it. Pardon me. But I also want to put forward solutions that are going to help the American public and put a stop to this going back and forth of these cycles of who's in power. For example, on my issues page, it's called the Social Security Medicaid Medicare Protections Act. I'm going to rename it. I'm going to name it more specifically the Budget Accountability Bill or Budget Accountability Act. Where if we had something like what I proposed, the Budget Accountability Act in place, this last budget reconciliation bill wouldn't have been able to happen because what I'm proposing is if there's a government agency that cannot pass an audit, then no other agency or department can even be proposed for cuts. Like Medicaid, like Medicare, like the impending cut that we all know is coming for Social Security, until other agencies pass an audit first. The ones that can't pass an audit are first on the chopping block. Because if you're accusing an agency of waste, fraud, and abuse, and you have other agencies that are equal in the amount of budget allotted to them annually, but can't pass an audit, like our Pentagon, then you shouldn't be able to propose cuts just so you can give your rich buddies tax cuts from departments and agencies and programs that can pass an audit, like Medicaid, like Medicare, that continually pass audits. The Pentagon has never once passed an audit in its entire history. A lot of people don't know that. And we just cut more from a life-saving service to the American public in Medicaid over the course of the next 4 or 5 years than the total annual budget of the DoD, the Department of Defense. The Department of Defense annual budget, I think, is around $980 billion, just short of $1 trillion, and we just cut more than $1 trillion from Medicaid and Medicare. And that's not attacking our troops or anything like that. If anyone isn't aware, I've dedicated my life to helping our service members, both active duty as well as veterans. I spent 2 years of my life driving the country, passing out survival gear to homeless veterans. My little dog Boomer and I crisscrossed the nation 7 times, from coast to coast, through heat waves and sandstorms in the desert to blizzards in Colorado. And over to the East Coast and back to the West Coast. 33 states, 312 homeless veterans helped. And there was only one instance of those 312 where there was notable either mental instability or substance abuse issues. 311 of them were of sound mind, working under the table, just plain and simple, could not afford the cost of living. So this notion, especially with Trump's latest attack on the homeless in D.C., that all homeless are substance abuse users or mentally unstable, is completely false. It's a completely disproportionate analysis of the veteran or the homeless population, both veteran and regular civilian across our country. As a veteran, thank you for it. It's my pleasure, and thank you for your service. And I will state here, as I have a million times online, I am not a veteran. I get thanked for my service almost daily, and if I can catch that comment in time, I immediately type out and respond. I am not a veteran. I have never, nor will ever claim the honor title of veteran. My family served. My father back there was in the Royal Navy. So on my dad's side, it was all British Navy, Royal Navy. And on mom's side, it was all U.S. Navy. My family served. I have never claimed that title. I never will. I take stolen valor very, very seriously. I will never disrespect anyone who has served, including my family and friends. I'm just a civvy trying to earn this life. I like to say that everyone who has served has already earned this life, especially what makes me feel kind of so bad about my life and guilty is that we've got close to 250,000 homeless veterans across our country, and I feel every single one of them has already earned this life, and I'm still trying to. So I will never claim to be a veteran or take an inch towards stolen valor. I think that stuff really, especially those guys that dress up and try to get like deals at malls and stuff like that, that stuff really, really gets under my skin. So thank you to everyone who has served. I will do my damnedest to take care of all of you because it's long past due. I see a note from Kathy over there, term limits. I believe in term limits. I absolutely believe in term limits. And I see there's a bunch of questions piling up on IG here, so I'll get to those in a second. I two parts. I believe in term limits. And those in power currently on both sides of the aisle that fight against it's because they want to stay with their cushy jobs. But I also, this is going to sound terrible, ageism. This is going to sound terrible, but ageism is written into our Constitution. And what do I mean by that? You have to be a minimum age in order to serve specific positions, be it the Senate, be it the House, be it the President. But there is no limit on age. So ageism is already constitutional. A lot of people would claim, especially those that want to fight against term limits now, they want to claim, well, you're being ageist. Well, ageism is constitutional because you have to be a certain age in order to be applicable to serve. So why is someone like Virginia Foxx allowed to carry on? And I've said many times, if you're old enough to collect Social Security, you shouldn't be allowed to vote to take it away from those that do. Plain and simple. Especially with the amount of generational wealth some of these representatives have already accumulated on both sides of the aisle. For any Republicans in here, I feel the exact same way about Nancy Pelosi and her 200 million plus net worth as I do with Voldemort Rick Scott and his 500 million plus net worth. They have enough, but it's just never enough for these people. And that's kind of the problem, is that when you have that mindset that it's never enough and you're not just happy with the multi-generational amount of wealth you've already hoarded, you're not serving the people, you're serving yourself. You're serving only your family and your lobbyists and your donors, and you're taking away from the definition of the word representative, and that's something that we need changed. So let me go to some of these Instagram questions here. Okay, so this person wrote, when you get elected, and you will, I happen to agree. Manifest destiny. What plans do you have to protect Social Security, healthcare, and veterans? Like I said before on that one, my Budget Accountability Act, I want to pass a law that for any budget reconciliation bills, you are not allowed to take away from and cut funding to programs that help Americans until programs that cannot pass an audit are prioritized first on the chopping block. There's going to be apathetic representatives that say they support the troops and say they care about senior citizens or say they cared about disabled children, but then take actions that actually harm all those groups. And there's nothing that's going to change that. I'm sorry, but there's going to be bad people in this life. That is a fact of life. But we can make laws to force the protection of programs, so that they are forced to put on the chopping block for their so-called conservative cuts, things that can't pass audits first, like the DOD, or I don't know, maybe like the White House's redecoration budget for all those ugly ass fake gold, leafing things that Donald Trump puts everywhere, because Donald Trump is treating the White House and his decorations like he's got a blank check from the American public. Maybe there should be a limit on how much a president can spend on, say, golf excursions or going to sporting events like a football game or a UFC fight or any of these various things that the taxpayer should not be responsible for footing those bills. There's something like my Budget Accountability Act would put a stop to a lot of that, to force them to make cuts if they really have their hearts set on making cuts for the rich, so the rich can get a tax cut. Then things that that they won't propose making cuts against will be first in line on the chopping block. So thank you very much for your question there. Stock trading rules, ban stocks, plain and simple. There's already any ideas around stock trading rules for representatives. Ban them. There is already, and there has been in the Senate proposed as well, I think Josh Hawley, which I'm no fan of Josh Hawley by any means, especially with his actions around January 6th. But Josh Hawley has proposed a stock ban rule, and Voldemort, Rick Scott, actually threw a temper tantrum at that because he likes making money. But there is a proposed bill in the Senate, and there already was a proposed bill in the House that was co-sponsored by another person I'm not a fan of, Chip Roy. But on the Democrat side, the co-sponsor is Representative, I can't remember his first name, if it's Matt, but his last name is Magaziner. And I actually interviewed him in D.C. about the stock ban thing. I have on my website a no stock buy or a stock buy ban that goes further than what the Senate currently has proposed, as well as the House has proposed. I want to see it extended to members of representatives, direct and indirect family members. Because you could put a law in place that bans a member of Congress from trading stocks, and they'll just have their sister-in-law or their spouse do it for them. So I want to see that stock ban be expanded to their direct and indirect family members. And that also ties into my National Conflict of Interest bill, where we see representatives on committees award government contracts to members of their family. Whether it be a logistics company, Mitch McConnell is famous for his logistics company. Chuck Grassley was famous for his farm bailout bill because he was a recipient of the first term Trump presidency farm bailout bill. All of that should be cut out because that is a direct conflict of interest. If they are making policy that directly benefits them or their members of family, then there is a conflict of interest, plain and simple. Can we meet your dog? He's actually resting in the room right now. And I do have him throughout my social medias. So he is Boomer the Second. Boomer the First, I don't know if you guys can see my tattoo here, but this was my little man who was a Chihuahua that thought he was a lab, and he was who traveled the country with me. Best dog I've ever had in my life. I love Boomer the Second with all my heart. I will jump in front of a locomotive to save that dog. But he is a puppy. I was spoiled with Boomer the First. Boomer the First came perfect out of the gate. Boomer the Second is testing his dad's patience, but I love him. I love him to death. Do you think that we'll ever vote again? Yes, I do. This is an important question because there is a big blow to the public confidence of our voting election system, and I've said many times before, and I don't shy away from this. Is that I don't believe, I have to say the word contest on TikTok, I don't believe the contest was proven to be fully legitimate. And the problem with that is that it wasn't proven to be, because no one who was in the position of power to even put up a vocal contestation to the results did. Hakeem Jeffries, who is the minority leader now on the Democrat side, famously bragged from a podium, "We're not election deniers over here." Yeah, we know, Mr. Jeffries, you're not doing anything over there. We hear that too, and a lot of people, especially on the Democrat side of things, have lost a lot of faith in our elections. But I will say this: is that 2026 midterms will be the definitive test. And I said in another post that was suppressed, we will cross that bridge when we come to it. It's in 2026, the amount of callous attitude and the amount of outrage that we're seeing, even from registered Republicans against their Republican representatives at town halls. If there is not a dramatic change in the seat power structure in Congress, then we will know that there is a compromised problem with the system. And we will cross that bridge when we come to it. As of today, as of right now, we must proceed forward as if our contests, I see you up there, TikTok moderator, looking at me, judging me. We must proceed forward as if our contests are free and fair. Because not participating adds to the problem. You have to vote. You have to register to vote. You have to make your voice heard whichever way you lean and you vote, or whichever candidate. I personally believe that everybody, because our lives have become so complicated and so unstable and uncertain, and this is why a lot of people don't read past headlines anymore. Nobody's got the time to really research and look into personal candidates, but I urge you to. Don't just vote for somebody because they have a D or an R next to their name, or even an I next to their name. Really make your vote count on, does this person resemble or relate to me? Do they stand by my same sentiments? Are they proposing things? Solutions, instead of just pointing a finger at one side or the other and saying, you're the problem. Are they actually putting forth solutions to make the country better? Instead of just saying, hey, when we get in power, we're going to repeal this. Hey, when we get in power, we're going to do this. It's this person's fault. It's this person. I mean, what solutions are you actually putting forward for the longevity of our country? Not just this election, but what will your representative that won over your vote do for you in the Senate? 6 years term? In the House, 2 years? What are they going to do in one single term that is going to make your life better? Let's see here. Someone asked about 2A. I'm not going to read that question out loud, but it's essentially inferring on taking up arms against currently right now. I have always said, and I will continue to say, 1, I am a 2A household. I am trained and proficient. 2, truly responsible owners believe and support in reform across the board. Weight gaps so that no one can cash and carry the same day. Which would prevent a lot of mentally unstable people from carrying out tragedies that same day. Anyone can wait 24 hours at a minimum. I'd like to see it up to at least 72 hours, a minimum, before somebody can pick up what they want to take home with them. Just so that there's a little buffer zone, at least, if somebody is having a mental break. But mandated background checks, a lot of states have timeout exemptions on background checks that if the feds cannot complete that background check request in time, like California has a 14-day waiting period for a background check, if the feds do not return back a background check, I'm not talking about a failed background check, but any background check within that 14-day period, the shop owner is legally allowed to still sell to you. So I want to get rid of background check timeout exemptions because that's just insane. The people that want to argue and say infringing upon the most usually can't pass. They won't pass a background check. They're afraid they won't pass a background check, and they're not truly responsible owners. It's not infringing upon to reform. It's ensuring the safety of your society while still being able to own. I personally would love to see, as many of my active duty friends and veteran friends have remarked to me that they also would like to see, I personally would like to see qualifications for various different platforms. Just like in our military, just because you sign that contract and you're in active duty doesn't mean that you just automatically get access to every single type of platform. And by platform, I mean different style of I'm so worried about getting kicked off of TikTok. That's the insanity of TikTok. With the words that I can say, different style of pew pew, as silly as that sounds. But yeah, I personally would love to see qualifications for various different higher velocity firearms. Now, I'm sure it'll be that things like that would be near impossible to get passed because of all the money the NRA equally floods the representative base just as much as places like APAC, organizations like APAC. And the NRA, I've said before, and this is a proven fact, they were near bankruptcy and they got bailed out in large part by foreign cash funding by places like Turkey, by places like Russia, and to me, that makes them a foreign-funded organization that should not be allowed to contribute to politicians. I joke and I say NRA should really stand for Not Really American. And I want to go on record here, as I have said many times before, the NRA is not the Second Amendment. As hard as they try to market themselves as one and the same, they are not. Okay? So they do not have that protection as the Second Amendment. How old am I? I'm 46 years old. I was born I'm officially barely a 70s baby. I was born in 79, so I'm barely on that cusp. But yeah, I was raised with music that outages me as much before my time. And I'm very thankful for my eclectic taste in music because of my father. My father was mostly bigger into playing music than my mother was, but my mother had her own faves too. But yeah, let's see. What was that? Oh, yes, the Frosty question. We got a Frosty question, and I will come back to the questions on Instagram here. Let's see. Did I miss? I think I missed one here. All right. I always stay hopeful during all of this. Lean on each other. I have said many, many times before that a lot of people have commented that I give them strength in my, end of night music posts or something like that. And a lot of people give me thanks for giving them hope and strength and things like that. And I've always responded back that I get my strength from all of you. When you give strength to other people, and I found this out when I was volunteering for Red Cross for Hurricane Irma in Florida. When you give strength out to other people, you find this like burning of strength within yourself. When you're at your weakest, when you're at your most tired, most exhausted, if you help somebody else, they'll just seemingly come out of nowhere in yourself, this like momentum to carry on. It's really a weird, almost euphoric feeling that, I mean, it sounds like I'm sounding kind of braggadocious here. I'm really not trying to be. I'm just trying to say that when you are at your most desperate in your lowest, try to focus less on that feeling of being exhausted, being sad, being at your lowest, and try to find someone else that you can make their day, especially someone that you don't even know. Because when you see this look back at you of almost astonishment, like, why does this person even care about me? There's literally something inside of you that lights up, and it's just like, yeah, I got this. I can keep going. So that's really my thing of where I get my strength from. I'm not just saying I get my strength from all of you just to say it. I mean, I literally feel it. Frosty question on the clock. Abolish it. Abolish it. Did you know that we never had a Frosty department? Ice on Instagram, because I can say that on Instagram. We never had a Frosty department until the Patriot Act, after 9/11 with George Bush. Our country operated just fine with a Customs and Border Patrol. We never needed it, and we still don't need it to this day. And they are showing today with how excited they are in their unconstitutional activities, how much they were really just eager and waiting for someone like Donald Trump or Stephen Miller, another Voldemort-looking Q-tip, dirty Q-tip, man, he is a dirty Q-tip, and he's such a little twerp too. I just, man, just over the knee. Self-proclaimed alpha, that would run like Josh Hawley the second he made eye contact with me. And if anyone ever saw Josh Hawley run through January 6th, you know what I'm talking about. But we never needed a Frosty department, and we still don't need one today. And we've seen how much they were just eagerly awaiting to go out and to have the restraints taken off of them for how they practice their operations. It is a department that was solely created out of racism. Plain and simple. It was created specifically before it was told to go after primarily Spanish-speaking brown people. It was created specifically to target and racially profile and go after Arabic-speaking brown people after 9/11. So I especially like this actual waste, fraud, and abuse that we're seeing with the big, beautiful bill that is now funding them. That's a prime example of Budget Accountability Act. They never would have been able to get an increase of funding until they passed an audit, and they were about to go belly up because within 4 months of operating under Kristi Noem, they were going belly up. They were running out of their entire allotment for annual funds. The only reason they're operating today is because of the big beautiful bill that funded them. But that's a prime example of the Budget Accountability Act. They couldn't pass an audit, so until they pass an audit and the Pentagon passes an audit, they get the cuts made. Not Medicare, not Medicaid, not things that actually help Americans. But yeah, that's literally the only reason why they're able to continue their racially motivated operations today is because of that big, beautiful bill. So, let's see. You know what? That's something I'm gonna read out loud for my campaign manager to take a note of for the next time. You should install captions translate English to Spanish so you can reach the Hispanic community. I will make sure that is done because the district I'm in does have a large population that don't actually vote, that are U.S. citizens or have legal visas, that are of Spanish descent. My neighbor, I believe, is from El Salvador. great family, and then the majority population around me are black. All amazing people. I love this neighborhood. I'll tell you what, because I made a post about this before where a racist came in my comments and said, what, do you suffer from white guilt? And I said, no, I suffer from white shame, a very specific white shame. And anyone that calls themselves a Christian, that actually considers themselves a Christian that is white, should be suffering from the same specific white shame right now in this timeline in history. And what brought that to mind right now is that if I see a car that I don't recognize come down my block, especially with the amount of unalived threats I've been receiving for the past, 5 years, 6 years I've been online, but specifically now because of my candidacy, if I see a car come down my drive, my road, and my end is I've got like the perfect situational awareness, by the way, for everyone that's worried about my safety. I've got 360-degree cameras running 24/7, recording 24/7, covering every inch of my property, plus my own proficiency in my 2A, and the best alert dog in the world whose ears pop up at the slightest sound. But if I see a car coming down my road that I don't recognize, and there's a black person or a Hispanic person inside, I have no worry. I have no that creak up my back, that funny feeling like what's about to happen. But if I see a white person drive down my road that I don't know, I'm ready. I am ready. I'm not sitting back relaxed. I'm ready for something. So yeah, it's that's because Donald Trump gave permission for the worst of our society to not feel ashamed about how they always were. Now, I want to be clear on this too. That does not mean that every single MAGA person out there today is like that. It does not mean that every single Republican person out there today is like that. Is there overwhelming evidence that these people should know by now? Yes. But you have to always keep in mind, and I said this back when I started posting about Ukraine and Russia, that there has been a huge segment of our population that has been straight up manipulated. They have been misinformed. They have been deluded. And I'm not saying have sympathy for them, but I'm saying understand a little bit that not 100 of 100 so-called MAGA people today are racist, are siding with insurrection. Or January 6th, or the actions of that, or how Trump is the unconstitutional means and measures that Trump is carrying out today.